Hey Louise, how are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
Good. So Louise Potter is our EXP Ohio managing broker. And today we are going to talk about reverse offers. I know
Yes.
we might not necessarily need it now, but I think it's a good well, are we allowed to do them, I guess, before I tell you that I've done them?
Yes, we are allowed to do them. And they're kind of a nice little tool to know in your arsenal,
Yeah.
for those off situations where it really might apply.
So this is where people don't know because I found a lot of people they don't even know. But like if you represent the seller and the buyers are sometimes not making they're not making an offer, but the seller can actually send an offer to them.
Yes, anybody can make an offer. And it falls under the same laws of the state of Ohio, where, by law, you have to present all offers. And so that buyer's agent has to present that offer to her buyers or his buyers. And yeah,
So like how does it work? Like let's say the property is priced at, we'll say 400.
Mhm.
They like tell it walk us let's walk through one.
Well, typically you're going to use something like this in a situation where buyers and sellers haven't come to terms.
Yeah.
They've gone back and forth. Everybody's gotten a little upset or whatever, or discouraged,
Hmm.
and they've walked away and kind of parted. And the seller then thinks, yeah, wow, I had a bird in hand and I let it fly away.
Right.
So what do I do to, get that buyer back? Well, we can call the buyer's agent, we can beg and plead, but sometimes, if that buyer hasn't found something, that seller can turn around and go back with the terms of the offer, maybe that they would be willing to accept, or
Mhm.
that they knew the buyer was willing to offer, that now that they've considered it, they think it may be a good idea. Um,
I've also noticed too that it helps like in a situation because right now a lot of people that are buying houses, they're not really used to like the negotiations of things. Like in their world, they don't really have to negotiate for anything. They just if they want it, they buy it and that's the price, you know? So
mhm.
sometimes they get nervous about pulling the trigger. So like we've used it before many, many years ago when it was like we were about to have a price reduction and this one buyer was like circling and circling, but just like would not pull the trigger. So it's like, hey, we'll reverse offer them with the lower price before it happens to say, hey, here's what we're willing to do to see if that gets them kind of like off the fence.
Right. Gets them moving forward. We used it a lot in the, what I call the dark days.
The dark days. When was that?
That 2007, when everything
Oh,
crashed and burned, and
yeah. Yeah.
I always go back to my one listing I had up in Olentangy School District. I had 350 competing listings with that one house. And
Wow.
so, what do you do to get that sold? I mean, how do you position that to be, the house people pick? And fortunately, I didn't have an issue. That house sold because we did everything and he did everything I told him to, and
Right.
it worked. But, in that kind of a market, you know, buyers were like, oh, there's the unicorn, and everybody
Right.
was chasing the unicorn.
Right.
So that's how you chase the unicorn. You went to them and said, hey, will you buy my house for this?
Right. Right.
And there were sellers using reverse offers in that situation.
But it's a
So
good thing if the agents like have communicated to fully understand what each client is wanting because then you
right.
can like formulate. I guess the sticking point that we've had in the past is like so we wrote it up on our paperwork, which sometimes the other agency doesn't like it, so then it would just have to be
Mhm.
rewritten. I mean,
Mhm.
is that okay? Because it's like it's kind of annoying to have to go through the whole effort of like writing it up on your paperwork and signing it. But I always would prep the seller, look, they're probably going to rewrite it and we're going to have to re-sign it because most of the brokerages won't accept that. But this is just to like get it into their hands and get it in writing and not verbal.
Right. Not every brokerage changes the contract. So,
Right.
if like in Columbus, most people use the Columbus contract. There are
Mm-hmm.
only a couple of brokerages that don't. So if I'm writing a reverse offer on a Columbus contract, they'll take it,
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
they'll work with that.
It just depends
you
on
know,
the brokerage.
it depends on the brokerage. It depends on what they've done, but it's our fiduciary duty, if that's what our client wants us to do it.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of people don't know about it. So that's why I thought it'd be cool, like, to bring it up.
Yeah. And it's, like I say, it should be only used in certain circumstances. Like my agents, I would hope if they're thinking about doing a reverse offer, would run it past me or run it past, Sarah, just, kind of check in with us on
funny.
it. I know, but that's what we're here for, to keep you safe. But, typically, the terms that the buyer left off at, and what the seller's willing to take. So if you can take the best of both of those, with your client and discuss it and put it together with something that would be palatable then to the buyer. I mean, that's the art of negotiation, is to try to, it's not who's going to win, it's to bring the meeting of the minds.
Exactly.
So you take those elements and you tweak them to where you think this offer may be good enough that they don't want to risk countering it.
Right. Exactly. Yes.
That's what you want to do.
Right.
So it's hard to reverse your thinking and think from the other way, because we're so used to coming at it from the buyer's side. But if you've got the terms, hopefully everybody can come together and find something acceptable.
Well, it's a more of a proactive way of getting the house sold. You might as well. Yes. And it also will help you get very clear with the seller, like what they are and aren't willing to take, because sometimes they'll be like, well, I would never take that, and be like, okay. And then they put it in writing, and then they will take it. And you're like, okay, you know what I mean?
And that is the art of negotiation. No, let's not look at just at the price. Let's look at everything else
all
first,
the terms and
come back to the price last.
Exactly.
Because then that price looks a little bit better if you look at all the terms.
Exactly.
So
that makes sense.
Yeah, cool. Very definitely.
I really appreciate you being on again, and people can tune in. We do these about every couple weeks or so. They can tune in to the Real Estate Fight Club podcast page and check us out. And if people have questions for you, Louise, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Best place would be probably either by email, which is Louise, Louise, .potter@exprealty.net.
.net.
Or .net, because that's the brokerage side. So it's .net. Or they can text me at 614-226-6981.
Awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I always enjoy this.
It's fun. Bye.
Bye.